Hi, I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of Kearney Consulting. Thank you so much for joining us for today's prompt engineering webinar. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump in. We have a lot to cover today. First, I want to share some resources. Check out our recent articles, sign up to receive our emails, book a discovery call if you need a CRM or data management consultant, or purchase the CRM or DIE book if you are not ready to engage a consultant yet. Our upcoming events next month, we have a CRM chat to talk about GenAI, data, and prompt engineering on September 12th. And our next webinar is October 10th on CRM integrations. Hope to have you join those. A little bit of housekeeping. I am not an AI expert. The subject matter is limitless and expansive, as you know. I'm only one person looking through the lens of data specifically and our industry for architects, engineers, and contractors. I am not a lawyer who specializes in AI. I'm not a lawyer at all. And always, always, always follow your firm's AI policy. If there aren't any, start the discussion now. Never put anything into generative AI that you wouldn't put on your website or social media. It's a good rule of thumb. When sharing information with AI that is generative, know what you have permission to use. Know if you are under an NDA with a client. Do not put sensitive information about your sales or intellectual property into GenAI. And constantly check the security policies of the chatbot that you are using. We use Chat GPT as our main one. We also use Microsoft's, and we constantly ask both when we're using client information, how are you using this? Will it be, is it proprietary? Will it be out on the internet? Things like that. We do have a ton of AI resources. Wanted to bring them to your attention. There is a link in the bottom right-hand corner. Erica can also drop that into the chat window. We have an article going over the overview of generative AI and data. We have April's 101 webinar, the recording and the slides. We have part 2. We have an article and video clips showing further into some of the things that I did. And then we have a CRM chat that was very lively, the recording from that from May, and then a prompt engineering article. I want to always remind people to remove sensitive data when using public GenAI chats. You can create custom chats or use proprietary ones. However, you can also use generative AI to help you remove and whitewash your data or remove sensitive data to help whitewash it. There is a video on our website that shows you how to do that. The link is in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going super fast because I want to get to new information. This is all recap, but I wanted us to be on the same place, but the same page. Prompt writing tips for text and data specifically. You need to assign a role, be specific in your prompts, specify the output, talk like you type like you talk. Don't use too much jargon. Do include in your prompts, do this, don't do that. Use examples and build on your prompts. We're going to look at all of these in action and a ton of examples that I have for you, but I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same playing field. And always remember that in order to be successful at GenAI, it takes patience. Just like onboarding a new employee, a new coworker, you are onboarding a generative AI or AI that is generative. So what in the world is prompt engineering? It sounds very complex. It sounds, very sophisticated. Really, when it comes down to it, it's the practice of designing and refining input queries to optimize AI generative outputs. So it's really just about the input and getting that as refined and well-crafted as possible. That is the prompt part of it. And then the engineering part is designing and refining. So really, when you're thinking about when we engineer buildings, we're engineering them and designing them and refining them and making them as effective and optimized as possible. That's what we're doing with the inputs when we're working with AI generative outputs. This webinar is specifically about leveraging those prompts for data. There's two things that I wanted to make sure that we were all aware of: how you upload data and the volume that it can take depends on the chatbot that you're using and the version. So it depends on if you're using, OpenAI, the free version, if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using ChatGPT 4.0, like which one are you using? There is a brand new one that we have a feeling is the Operation Strawberry that's coming out of OpenAI that launched this week. So it just depends on all the different versions that you're using, right? And then clearly state the output format that you want, especially when you're working with visuals, charts, visualizations, like things like that. If you want it editable in a PNG file, if you want it in an Excel file so that you can manipulate the chart, just make sure that you're clearly stating that regardless of the chatbot that you're using. Okay, so now to get into new information. How to structure data prompts. Identify the purpose and the audience. So for example, identify if you want the output in the text summary. Am I looking for analysis, visuals? And then also in the prompt, talk to the chatbot about your audience. This is going to stakeholders. This is going in a proposal. This is going in a presentation. What is the medium? Who is it going to? Then you've got to gather the relevant data that's going to be used in that prompt or for that prompt, and then prepare the prompt. Desired outcome, use examples, and then most importantly, test and refine. So what does it look like when we put this into action? What is our purpose? Who is our audience? For this example, we have pursuit data for the last 12 months, and we're presenting it to our stakeholders in an annual stakeholder meeting. We've gathered the opportunity data. We're going to upload a version that is already clean and safe. There is no confidential information. We've removed all of our client names and any other sensitive information. And we're going to request a text summary so that we can start with that. So what does this look like when we actually put it into a prompt? I'm a marketing manager preparing for the upcoming stakeholders meeting that I'm responsible to present the analytics of our pursuits from the last 12 months. Please use the data in the attached spreadsheet to prepare a text summary, including an overview, key insights, areas of concern, any errors or outliners, as well as recommendations. We're going to get the information back. We're going to see what that text summary looks like. What are the areas of concerns? If there are areas, or if there are errors or huge outliners, maybe somebody fat fingered and added too many zeros, things like that. We're going to dive into the results, and then we're going to ask the chatbot for more specifics, clarification on parts of the data that we want to look into. Is there an area that we want to focus on? Maybe we want to focus on our win rate. Maybe we want to focus on how many days in stage our averages are, or is our process taking too long in a specific stage that we're looking at? What is our pursuit time? Any of those kind of things. Looking at maybe it highlighted a trend or a pattern that you want to dive more into. Looking at your top data points, looking at, hey, now that I understand this information, who are our top clients? What are the top markets? What markets are in incline, decline? Like looking at all of that, and then we're going to test and refine. Once we get that information back, now it's time for us to kind of take it to the next step of getting ready for the actual stakeholders presentation. So we're going to put into the prompt that says, based on the analysis of the uploaded data set that we've already been using, I feel the story the data is telling is, and then whatever that is for you in your data set. I feel like our win rate has been impacted and we need a go, no go decision process. I feel that we're in the wrong market. I feel like we're in a declining geographic location, whatever that story is for what you're trying to tell on your slides. What are the ideal chart types and top visualizations to aid in telling the story? List in a text summary. Then you'll get back a pie chart, a bar graph, and then it'll give you descriptions of why, depending on the chat bot that you're interacting with. You're going to review that information and then ask for examples of those top options. But remember, be specific when you're asking for those. Do you want it in an editable PNG file? Do you want it in that Excel file? It also depends on the version of how it might give it back to you. If you're using a free version, it might only give you that text summary. So it just depends on what you're using for your GenAI tool. Prompt templates. So this is where having the history, taking good records, maybe you're using a Word document to track it, maybe you're tracking these in your CRM, maybe you are tracking it on your marketing server, whatever that looks like. Having these templates or go-bys is really good for how you're using your GenAI. So we're going to look at 4 specifically. If you have a data set you need to analyze, if you want to create a project description, client feedback data, and email campaign data. So having a template allows not just you to use the GenAI, it also helps for things like your AI policy and examples of how you're going to use it. And then people can just replace the yellow or the gold and then put in what's relevant for that specific use case. So I am a marketing assistant. I am a marketing coordinator. I am a CRM database manager, whatever that role is, preparing for a proposal, for a presentation, for an interview, whatever that is. And then 2 or 4, whatever audience. Use the data in the attached spreadsheet and then this is your outcome. Be very specific in what you want to see. And then you need to give it some clarification. Please do or do not fill in missing information in the data set. Identify errors. Do or do not correct them. So make sure that you're specific with what you want it to do or not to do. Looking at your project descriptions, create a blank number of words summary of this project located in city and state, focusing on these key features, highlighting this quote for the client. Here is the client feedback or the quote. Emphasize these unique innovations and mention any of these awards. Do or do not use public information available on the web. You need to tell it what to do in those scenarios. Looking at your client feedback template. Attached is a data set of the last 3 months, 1 year, however long you want to do it, of client feedback survey results. Please identify trends, patterns, key insights, any areas of concern, and any quotable statements that we can use for client testimonials. Do or do not use public information. Remember, it's your responsibility to clean this before you give it to it. So don't put any in there that, didn't give permission to be quoted or for any confidential projects or strip out the confidentiality. Make sure that it's clean data before it goes in. Looking at your email campaign, attached is data from either a specific campaign or our email campaign over the last 6 months. Please identify trends, patterns, key insights, and any areas of concern. Share recommendations for improving future email campaigns based on this analysis. We are a blank, fill in your firm overview. How do we compare to other firms our size in our industry? There are many other ways that areas that you can create templates for. These are just some ideas. So your social media engagement, your website traffic, things that you want to analyze on a regular basis. So maybe you're doing these on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, really looking at, the analytics and then just having that prompt ready to go. And then you're just updating really the data set, the time frame, any specifics you want, and you can do your analytics a whole lot faster. Now let's talk about some common pitfalls. Avoid ambiguity, include sufficient context, avoid overloading the prompt, so don't give it too much, use simple and direct language. Again, we've hit on some of these, but it's just reminders, especially as we're thinking now with some specific examples. Avoid leading questions and try to avoid zero-shot prompts. So when we're talking about avoiding ambiguity, the pitfall is really, here's a spreadsheet, analyze this data set. It's just too vague. Now, if you are new to generative AI, sure, start with this. The information that you're going to get back is very generic, and then you can start to ask questions. So it's not awful, but if you want to advance your prompts and optimize them, this is too ambiguous, it's too vague. So really be more specific. Analyze the sales data from this quarter, from these dates, from this range, in this market, whatever that is that you're specifically looking at. Focus on the top performing clients, identifying the sales trends. When we're talking about overloading the prompt, don't give it 3 or 4 spreadsheets. Don't give it a workbook with several different tabs. Really focus on one set of data at a time. So instead of saying, here's our sales, customer feedback, and website traffic, say, here's our sales data. This is what I want you to look at. Then here's our customer feedback. Here's what I want you to look at here, so don't give it all in one prompt. Instead of leading questions, don't lead the witness. Explain why our sales are declining. You're assuming that they are declining. Now, you might have already done the analytics to know that, but instead use neutral language saying, analyze the data set for the past 6 months and identify any notable trends. Because what you might see as declining, it might pick up a different trend, and then you've already biased the feedback that you're going to get. Avoid zero-shot prompt. What does that even mean? In machine learning, a zero-shot prompt is where you give an example when you give no examples when it is necessary. So analyze the client feedback from our recent projects. Instead, analyze the client feedback from our recent projects. For reference, here is an example of a feedback summary. Clients frequently praised our timely project completion and clear communication throughout the process. However, some clients mentioned a desire for more regular updates on project milestones. Overall, the feedback highlights our strengths. This could be an example from the previous month or the previous quarter. Then you say, use a similar format to identify key themes and insights. This is that test and refine, build on your prompts that we talked about earlier. This is when the first one might be a zero shot. You might not have an example, but as you build them, then you can get away from the zero shot prompt, and then you can refine and build on them. The last thing I want to hit on is custom GPTs. This has been a hot topic in the last 6 months, so I just wanted to touch a little bit on this. We, again, have our preference of ChatGPT, so that's the examples that I'm going to give, but any of your generative AIs that you're working with have custom that you can work with. So at the core, a custom GPT is just a tailored version of a generative AI model that is designed to meet a specific need. So it's taking, instead of an entire AI or a learning model, it's making it go very, very specific. Really what this means is that the prompt is already built into what you're doing, or the knowledge base is already built in to the model. So there are several ways that you can do this. One, you can create your own, and there are some pros and cons to that. One, it can be more secure depending on how you're building it. Two, it can be specific to only the data that you give it. So we have some clients who have created GPTs that have all of their proposal data, like past proposals for the last 5 years already in it. So it asks questions like, here's the question that we're getting on this new proposal. What's the best way that we should answer it based on the information that you already have, i.e. it being the last 5 years of proposal history. Utilizing custom GPTs that have already been created or created by someone else. It's chatbot specific, and always look behind the curtain and know what it is that you're interacting with so that you don't make assumptions that have already been made for you. So looking at this, if you go to ChatGPT and say explore on the left-hand side, or if you go to the URL chatgpt.com/GPTs, you can scroll through and look at the top picks, what's trending. The top bar, you can look at writing prompts or writing GPTs, productivity. If you just want to go have fun, this is where we found the Cartoonize. So on the very first slide, the Cartoonize is a custom chat GPT that we use to turn all of our staff members into cartoonized headshots. So there's really fun ones out there. Now, if you look in the search bar, you can type in what you're looking for. For this case, we're going to say data analysis, and there are a ton. This goes on for days. There's hundreds out there. What I want to bring your attention to is the description. So each one of these has a one-sentence description, and you can see that some of them have the ... You can go to them and see more of the description, but from here, you just have one shot. And then you can also see how many people are utilizing those custom GPTs. One that we have started playing with is data analysis. And in the upper left-hand corner, you can click the about and learn a little bit more about it. You can also interact with it. So you can see on my screen that the prompt set or the introduction says drop in any file, and I can help analyze and visualize your data. Now, I put in, when I drop in a file, what do you do to analyze my data? I wanted to know exactly what it was going to do. This is what I mean by looking behind the curtain. So for our Cartoonize, we asked, what is the prompt that you're using? Turns out they were using language for Pixar related images. So you can see what it is that they have already built in to the custom GPT. Hopefully this was helpful to you so you can tackle and improve and optimize your prompt writing and feel like you can be a prompt engineer now. If you want some more resources, I've included them here. Please, check them out and join us for our discussion at the CRM chat on September 12th. There it is. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your afternoon.